My stepchildren told me they only recognize their biological parents' authority. So I replaced the locks, cut off every privilege under my name, and told their dad pickup was tonight. Nobody protested. Hello everyone, welcome to Grandparents' Stories. You know, I used to think that consistency, patience, and love could eventually win anyone over, especially children. That if you just kept showing up with kindness, eventually they'd see it and soften. But I discovered the hard way that some people, even kids, will treat kindness as weakness and generosity as something they're owed. In Daniel, 42, and I've been married to my wife Lavra for 3 years. This is the story of the day I finally stood up for myself and my family, and why sometimes the most loving thing you can do is set boundaries that actually matter. When Lavra and I got married, we blended our families. I brought my 2 kids from my first marriage, Lily, who's 10, and Noah, who's 8. Lavra had 2 children as well, Ethan, 16, and Sophie, 14. Their biological father, Michael, lives about 20 minutes away and takes them every other weekend. From the start, I tried to be the stepdad I never had. I included Ethan and Sophie in everything: family game nights, vacations, even rule-making. I bought their school supplies, sports gear, drove them to practices, the same as I did for my own kids. But here is the truth about respect. You can't demand it, and you can't purchase it. The first real warning sign showed up about 6 months after we all moved in together. I asked Ethan to help bring in groceries. He looked me straight in the eye and said, "You're not my dad. I don't have to listen to you." Lavra overheard and made him help anyway. He did, but with an attitude that showed he wasn't listening to me, only to his mum. I let it go. He's adjusting, I thought. This is tough for him, too. But things didn't improve. They got worse. Ethan and Sophie developed selective hearing. When Lavra asked them to do something, they reacted instantly. When I made the same request, they'd stare blankly or say, "I'll wait for Mum to tell me." The cracks deepened in everyday moments. Ethan would ask Lavra if it was okay to eat the meal I had cooked, as though my effort didn't count. Sophie would leave messes in shared spaces, and if I told her to clean up, she'd reply, "My mum didn't ask me." It began spilling onto my kids. Lily came to me crying one afternoon because Ethan had taken her art supplies. When she asked for them back, he told her, "Your dad doesn't make rules here. Only real parents do." Real parents. Noah later asked me why Ethan and Sophie didn't have to listen to me like he did. How do you explain to an 8-year-old that rules in one house vary depending on genetics? I raised it with Lavra repeatedly. She'd speak to them, they'd apologize, and things would smooth out for a few days. Then it was back to the same cycle. "They're still adjusting," she'd insist. Their father fills their heads with talk about loyalty and blood family. Give it time. But time wasn't healing anything. It was showing Ethan and Sophie that disrespect had no consequences. Then came the night I overheard Sophie talking on the phone with a friend. She laughed and said, "We don't have to do anything," he says. "He's just the wallet, not the dad." That cut deeper than I can explain. It wasn't just disobedience anymore, it was mockery. Another time, during a family dinner I had prepared, Ethan deliberately pushed his plate away and said, "You'll just wait for Mum to order pizza later." Lavra told him off. But the damage was done. Lily burst into tears because she thought Ethan was rejecting me, not just the food. The final straw came one Thursday evening in February. It had a long day at work. When I got home, Noah was crying. He told me Ethan had broken his favorite toy, a model airplane we had built together. And when Noah got upset, Ethan mocked him. "Ask your dad to buy you a new one. That's all he's good for." I found Ethan in the living room playing video games. "Ethan," I said, "we need to talk about what happened with Noah's plane." He didn't pause his game. I don't know what you're talking about. You broke his model airplane. He shrugged. Accidents happen. This wasn't an accident. Noah said you threw it at the wall when he wouldn't give you his headset. Ethan finally looked at me, defiant. Noah's lying. And even if he wasn't, you're not my dad. I don't owe you anything. I kept my voice calm. You live under my roof, eat food I buy, use electricity I pay for, and you just destroyed my son's property. You absolutely owe me an explanation. He laughed. Your roof. Mum pays, too. Your son. Noah isn't my family. And you're just Mum's husband. You don't set my rules. I don't answer to you. Something inside me shifted. Not rage, clarity. This boy had spelled out exactly where I stood in his mind. Cruel and dismissive. I didn't yell. I nodded. All right. I hear you. I walked to my office and opened my laptop. I made a list of everything tied to my name: the mortgage, utilities, internet, cable, family phone plan which included their lines, car insurance covering Laura's vehicle, gym memberships, streaming services, even the console Ethan was gaming on. Then I started making calls. By 10 p.m., Ethan and Sophie's phones were cut off, internet and cable scheduled for disconnection, and all streaming passwords changed. Lavra walked in. What are you doing? Ethan made it clear I'm not his parent, I said. So I'm making sure he doesn't need to accept anything from someone who isn't his parent. Her face went pale. Daniel, what did you do? I've removed Ethan and Sophie from every account under my name. I'll also need Michael's address because we'll be delivering their belongings this weekend. You can't be serious. Lavra, tonight your son told me I'm just your husband, that I have no authority here, that my kids don't matter. Hayes right, I'm not his parent, which means I'm not responsible for him either. The next day, I packed their clothes, electronics, and personal things, loaded them in my truck, and changed the locks. When Lavra and the kids came home and couldn't get in, she called me. Daniel, we can't get into the house. I changed the locks, I said calmly. Their things are packed for Michael's. They don't respect this house or me as its head. People who don't respect the homeowner don't live here. By the time I got home, Michael was already there. Lavra had called him. He frowned. Isn't this extreme for teenage attitude? Michael, I said evenly, if your son told you that you weren't his parent, that your kids didn't matter, what would you do? He hesitated. I'd probably want to teach him a lesson. That's what I'm doing. Teaching respect and consequences. I turned to Ethan and Sophie. This isn't pettiness. This is about respect. You've made it clear I'm not your parent, fine. But parents provide for their children. If I'm not your parent, I don't owe you provision. For the first time, Ethan looked unsure. You're really making us leave. You told me I have no authority. Authority and responsibility go hand in hand. No authority means no responsibility. Sophie started to cry. But where will we go? To your dad's, I said gently. Hayes your parent. I'm only your mom's husband. Remember, I helped Michael load their things. Before leaving, Ethan asked, what if we want to come back? Then you'll need to treat me with the same respect you'd give your father, because in this house, that's who I am, a father figure who deserves respect. They left that night. Lavra was furious, accusing me of cruelty, of abandoning her kids, of putting my pride ahead of our family. But I stayed firm. I love you, Laura, and I want to love your kids, but I cannot love people who disrespect me and hurt my children. Actions have consequences, and the consequence of rejecting my authority is losing my support. Almost overnight, Lily and Noah relaxed. They did homework without prompting, helped with chores, and finally felt safe at home again. A week later, Michael called. Ethan and Sophie want to come back. They've been asking daily. What do you think? I asked. I think they've learned something, Michael admitted. Ethan's quieter, more thoughtful. He gets it now that respect isn't optional. And Sophie misses her mum. She asked me to tell you she's sorry. Lavra and I agreed to let them return, but only with conditions. I sat them down. I'm not asking you to call me Dad, but I expect the same respect you'd show any adult who provides for you. Ethan nodded. I understand. And I'm sorry about Noah's plane. That was wrong. I'm sorry too, Sophie whispered. I didn't realize what you did for us until it was gone. It wasn't perfect overnight, but something fundamental shifted. They began showing respect. 6 months later, Ethan asked me for help with math instead of waiting for Lavra. Sophie started thanking me for rides. Small gestures, but they mattered. Not long after, Ethan even stepped in when a cousin at Michael's place started mocking Noah. He told him, "Don't talk about my brother like that." That's when I knew something had really changed. And Sophie surprised me one evening by cooking dinner with Lily as a thank you for helping her with a school project. For the first time, I felt genuine appreciation from her, not just politeness. A year later, when Ethan asked about a concert, he listened to my concerns seriously and compromised. That's when I knew we had become a true family. Looking back, I don't regret changing those locks. Some called it extreme, but sometimes extreme moments demand firm boundaries. Ethan and Sophie learned that you can't take family privileges without family responsibility. My marriage with Lavra grew stronger. She saw I wouldn't be walked over, but I also wouldn't give up on her kids. Lily and Noah saw that respect in our house isn't negotiable, and that it'll protect them when they're mistreated. Even Michael and I developed mutual respect. He appreciated that I held his kids accountable, and I respected that he supported the lesson. And here is the truth I carry with me now. Family isn't just about blood, it's about choice, respect, and actions. Ethan and Sophie had to lose the comfort of home to understand what it meant to belong to one. When they came back, they weren't just stepchildren anymore, they were my family, too. So here it is. Sometimes love means boundaries. Sometimes being a good parent or step-parent means being willing to be the bad guy to teach an important lesson. But tell me, if you were in my shoes, would you have done the same? Or would you have handled it differently? Let me know in the comments. And if you like this story, please hit like and subscribe to Grandparents Stories, a community where respect matters and consequences are real.